He didn't scream. He didn't run. He just stood there, confused, holding a plastic bag with 2 orange soda cans and a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. That was the last thing Marcus Bell ever held. It happened on a quiet Thursday evening in Eastlake, Georgia, 7:12 p.m. 2 officers, 4 shots, one body lying motionless against the cold sidewalk outside a corner store, blood trickling down the curb like rainwater. Marcus Bell, 38, unarmed, diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, black. The officers claimed he was reaching for something. He wasn't. They said he was aggressive and non-compliant. He wasn't. And the body cam footage? It mysteriously malfunctioned. At first, the news didn't say much. Just a brief segment buried between weather updates and traffic accidents. But the neighborhood knew. They saw what happened. They heard the gunshots. And one woman, Ms. Evelyn King, age 76, stood on her porch and shouted, "They shot that poor boy for no damn reason." It started as a whisper. Then it became a question. Then it became a movement. Marcus lived alone in a small duplex at the edge of town. He wasn't violent. He wasn't dangerous. He walked the same route every day. Store, park, back home. His sister, Lorna Bell, called him every morning before work and every night before bed. She made sure he took his meds, made sure he ate. She loved him in that fierce, protective way only a sister can love a brother. And on that Thursday, when he didn't answer her call at 8 o'clock p.m., she knew something was wrong. They didn't even call her. Lorna found out her brother was dead when she saw his face on the news. He was lying face down in a pool of his own blood, the bag of soda cans crushed beneath him. She collapsed. Marcus had been diagnosed at 24. He heard voices sometimes, had trouble focusing, but he never hurt anyone. He worked part-time at the church, swept floors, washed windows. The kids called him Mr. Bell. He gave out peppermints from a pocket in his hoodie. He was loved. But the moment those officers saw a black man mumbling to himself with a plastic bag in his hand, they didn't see a neighbor. They didn't see a man. They saw a threat. The store clerk, Jamal Ruiz, saw the whole thing. He watched Marcus walk into the store like he always did, head down, humming some old gospel song under his breath. He bought 2 sodas and a turkey sandwich. Then he walked outside, calm, normal. And then the squad car pulled up. They didn't even say freeze, Jamal told the local news. They just shouted something like, "Drop it," and bang, he was on the ground. One bullet hit his shoulder. One grazed his rib. 2 entered his back. Lorna showed up at the hospital still wearing her work scrubs. They told her Marcus was DOA. She asked for his belongings. All they gave her was the crushed bag with the sodas and sandwich, not even his phone. She didn't cry, not yet. She just stood there, silent, clutching that bag like it was the last piece of him left. By morning, social media had erupted. Justice for Marcus had mental health. Is not a weapon. He was just buying a sandwich. And by afternoon, something shifted. A city that had long ignored stories like Marcus's suddenly had a mirror held to its face. The police held a press conference. Mr. Bell appeared erratic and non-responsive. Officers believed he was reaching for a weapon and responded accordingly to ensure public safety. That was it, no apology, no remorse. Lorna stood outside the precinct with a photo of her brother in one hand and the crushed soda can in the other. He wasn't dangerous, she told reporters. He wasn't reaching for anything except a damn sandwich. 3 days later, the autopsy report leaked. That changed everything. Marcus was shot from behind. There was no weapon, no drugs in his system. Just lithium and love. Lorna didn't sleep for 3 days. She paced. She answered calls. She replayed the news clips over and over. Every pixel of her brother's final moments burned into her memory. She tried calling the precinct. They transferred her. Then they hung up. Then they told her someone would get back to her. No one did. At the candlelight vigil on Sunday, over 100 people gathered outside the corner store where Marcus was killed. Some brought signs, some brought candles, some brought their rage. A young black teenager stood on a crate and shouted through a megaphone, "If Marcus Bell can be shot for buying a sandwich, then who's next?" The crowd cheered, but behind the cheers was fear. 2 blocks away, behind closed doors, Police Chief Roland Haskins met with city officials. He was furious, but not about the shooting, about the optics. Why the hell didn't the cameras work? He barked across the room. No one answered. Body cam footage from both officers was corrupted, the department claimed. Dash cam was obstructed by weather, and the convenience store security system mysteriously erased. Too many coincidences, too many lies. Lorna hired an attorney. Her name was Janine Caldwell, former federal prosecutor, sharp as a razor, and just as dangerous. You want justice, Janine said on their first meeting? Then you'd better be ready to burn down everything they're hiding behind. Lorna nodded. She was ready. The more they dug, the worse it got. The two officers, Patrick Sloan and Eli Forrester, had a long history of complaints, use of force, racial profiling, targeting homeless or mentally ill citizens. But none of it stuck. Every complaint was dismissed, every file buried, every victim too scared to speak. Janine pulled the paper trail like threads from a rotten quilt. They knew what those two were doing, she told Lorna, and they did nothing. At a town hall meeting, Lorna took the microphone. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. My brother had an illness, yes, but you don't get executed for being sick. You don't die for holding a soda and a sandwich. If Marcus had been white, we wouldn't be here. Silence, then applause. Then someone in the back stood and yelled, "Say his name!" The crowd roared, "Marcus Bell! Marcus Bell! Marcus Bell!" That night, national media picked up the story. CNN, MSNBC, even the Washington Post ran a headline. Unarmed black man with mental illness killed by police. No footage, no answers. But the more the truth came out, the harder the city pushed back. They released new footage, grainy, angled from a streetlight across the road. Marcus's silhouette, a quick motion, a blur. That's the threat, they said, the same way they always do. Then came the smear. Old photos, medical records, a petty theft charge from 12 years ago, dropped without trial. They painted Marcus as unstable, as dangerous, as somehow responsible for his own death. He had a history of erratic behavior, said one police union rep. The officers followed protocol. Lorna watched that press conference with her fists clenched. Her voice cracked when she spoke to Janine. They're trying to bury him again. Janine didn't blink. Let them. We'll dig deeper. We'll drag the whole damn graveyard into the light. And they did. They filed for public records. They subpoenaed internal emails. They tracked down every resident who had ever been harassed by Sloan or Forrester. One woman, Monique Adams, had been slammed to the ground for loitering outside her apartment building. She was walking her dog. An older man, Jeremiah Brooks, had been tased while asking for help at a gas station. He was diabetic and disoriented. All incidents swept under the rug. Until now, the city tried to offer a settlement, $250,000. No admission of guilt. No further investigation. Janine laughed. They really think that they can buy silence. Lorna didn't hesitate. No deal. But the pushback grew uglier. Lorna's house was egged. Her tires slashed. Anonymous calls at 3 a.m. whispering, "You're next." She refused to back down because she had seen the footage. Not the body cam, not the dash cam. The cell phone video. A teenager named Corey James had been skateboarding near the store. He caught everything. Marcus, standing still, holding that bag. Officers yelling, guns drawn, and then bang, 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 bang. No weapon, no threat, just fear and blood. Corey was scared to release the footage. His mother begged him to stay quiet. But when Lorna knocked on their door, tears in her eyes, he handed her the phone. "He didn't deserve that," Corey said. "No one does." The footage went viral within hours. And just like that, the tide turned. The footage was undeniable. Clear, close-up, unedited. Marcus stood still. His hands were down. The bag barely swung at his side. No sudden moves, no raised voice, no threat. Yet they fired. 4 shots. The world saw it, and the world reacted. The mayor held a press conference that night. She looked rattled, unprepared. "The city is committed to a full investigation. We value transparency. We value justice." Empty words. Behind her, Chief Haskins stood stiff, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He wasn't ready to give up his officers. And he definitely wasn't ready to give in to a grieving sister with a lawyer and a video file. By the next morning, the smear campaign intensified. Right-wing outlets ran stories titled, mentally ill men and the rising threat to officer safety. Marcus Bell's dangerous past, what the media won't tell you. They dragged up every mistake Marcus ever made. A fight in high school, a shoplifting charge from when he was 17, an eviction notice from 2009. Lorna couldn't breathe. It felt like they were killing him again, this time on live television. Then the police union stepped in. Their statement? Officers Sloan and Forrester followed proper training protocols in a fast-moving, dangerous situation. Any attempt to villainize them is an insult to every man and woman who wears the badge. They weren't backing down. They were doubling down. And they were about to strike back hard. That afternoon, Janine received an anonymous email. An internal memo from the department, marked confidential. Subject, strategy, brief public backlash. The contents? A plan to discredit Lorna, to leak information about her employment, her finances, her medical history, a smear, a full-on takedown. They didn't just want to silence her. They wanted to destroy her. Let them come, Lorna said, her voice ice cold. Janine looked at her, dead serious. This isn't just about your brother anymore. It's about power, and they will do anything to keep it. 2 days later, Lorna was fired from her job. Official reason? Failure to disclose involvement in a legal investigation. She had worked there for 9 years, never missed a shift. The real reason? She made too much noise. Then came the subpoena. The city was suing her for defamation, for emotional damages caused by her public accusations. Janine read the filing, then threw it on the table. They're not trying to win this. They're trying to scare you. Lorna didn't flinch. They already took my brother. They don't get to take my voice. But the pressure mounted. She couldn't pay rent. She was 2 months behind on her car. Her credit was tanking. She was getting calls every hour, media, threats, reporters. And still, no arrest, no indictment, no trial. The grand jury had been delayed for review, for additional findings, for procedural clarity. In other words, stalling. One night, Lorna sat alone in her apartment, lights off, watching the footage again. Marcus's last moments, his gentle eyes, his confusion, his stillness, and the sudden deafening violence. Tears streamed down her face. She whispered into the dark, "I don't know how much longer I can do this." Then her phone buzzed. It was a text, unknown number. "We have something you need to see. Meet us at 10 p.m., no cops." Attached, a location. An abandoned parking lot behind an old warehouse. Janine begged her not to go. "It's a trap. They're baiting you." But Lorna knew the difference. She felt it. Whoever sent that message wasn't a threat. They were scared, and scared people tell the truth. She arrived early, parked under a flickering street lamp, waited. 10 minutes passed, then a car pulled up. Tinted windows, engine still running. The passenger door opened. A woman stepped out, late 30s, plain clothes, no badge. She looked around, then approached, holding a flash drive. "I work at the department," she whispered. "They deleted the real footage from the servers, but not from the cloud. They don't know I made a backup." She handed over the drive. "Watch it, then burn it all down." Lorna didn't sleep that night. Janine plugged the drive into her laptop. What they saw wasn't just a shooting. It was a setup. Body cam footage wasn't corrupted. It had been wiped manually. The officers joked before stepping out of the car. They laughed when Marcus flinched. They fist bumped after the shots. One even said, "He looked like he was reaching. That's all we need." That video was damning, career-ending, system-breaking. Janine called the media, all of them. Then she called the DA's office. "If you don't bring charges, we will leak this to the world in less than 12 hours. The next morning, the district attorney announced, "We are filing formal charges against Officers Sloan and Forrester for manslaughter, obstruction of justice, and tampering with evidence." Finally, a crack in the wall. They didn't see it coming. Not the department, not the mayor, not even the officers' high-priced union lawyers. Because by the time the district attorney hit send on the official charges, Janine Caldwell had already gone national. She sat across from Anderson Cooper that night, her voice steady, her words precise. This wasn't just a tragic mistake. It was a cover-up, and we have proof. Then she reached into her briefcase, pulled out the flash drive, and dropped it on the desk like a bomb. "We're done being quiet. We're done being polite. It's time they answer for what they did." By dawn, the video had gone viral. Again, but this time it was complete. The jokes, the callous language, the proud smirks after the killing. Even officers in other states were shocked. Even conservative pundits struggled to defend it. The world saw the truth, and it couldn't unsee it. Sloan and Forrester were arrested the next morning. They wore suits, walked in with lawyers, pretended it was all routine. But the perp walk said otherwise. Cameras flashed, protesters screamed, one woman spat on their windshield. Lorna watched it all on TV. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But this time, they weren't from grief. Then came the second twist. The Department of Justice stepped in. A federal civil rights investigation was opened. Every file, every complaint, every case involving those two officers and anyone who covered for them was now under review. The city panicked. Chief Haskins resigned that afternoon. For the good of the department, he said. Translation, he didn't want to be next. The mayor called Lorna personally, apologized, offered support, promised healing. Lorna listened. Then she asked one question. Would you have called me if that video never came out? There was a long silence. Then the mayor hung up. And just when the world thought the story had peaked, Janine dropped her own bombshell. At a press conference outside the courthouse, she stood behind a podium surrounded by activists, lawyers, and members of the Bell family. I want to be transparent about something, she said, looking straight into the cameras. This case, it's personal. She took a breath. When I was 19, my cousin, diagnosed bipolar, was shot dead during a traffic stop. No weapon, no charges, just another black life forgotten. I swore that day I would change the system from the inside. She looked at Lorna, then back at the cameras. And I haven't stopped since. Reporters exploded with questions. But Janine had already stepped back. She didn't want credit. She wanted change. That change came fast. The Bell case wasn't just news now. It was federal precedent. Within 2 weeks, cities across the country began reviewing their mental health response protocols. Several states introduced new laws requiring crisis intervention teams in police departments. Departments that resisted faced funding cuts, faced lawsuits, faced public wrath. But the final twist? It came from someone no one expected. Officer Eli Forrester. He flipped. On live TV. In a plea deal arranged through his attorney, Forrester stood in court, voice cracking. We were trained to fear, trained to escalate, trained to treat mental illness like criminal behavior. And we were told if we messed up, someone upstairs would always clean it up. He looked at Lorna. I'm sorry I let fear win. I let the system use me. That testimony triggered a domino effect. Former officers came forward, whistleblowers from within the department, even an ex-internal affairs investigator. The entire foundation began to crack. The state attorney general launched a full audit of the East Lake Police Department. The findings? Horrific. Over 70 use of force incidents had been misreported. 19 involved mentally ill individuals. 6 of them had died. No one had ever been charged. Until now. But Lorna wasn't finished. She took the settlement money offered by the state, $1.3 million, and declined the non-disclosure clause. Instead, she turned it down flat, then launched a foundation, the Bell Standard, a nonprofit dedicated to training law enforcement officers in trauma-informed responses, crisis de-escalation, and implicit bias education. Its motto, see the person, not the fear. Within 6 months, over 40 departments across the country signed on to Bell Standard programs. And Lorna? She didn't stop. She testified before Congress. She wrote a book. She spoke at every community forum that would have her. In one interview, she said something that stuck with people. Marcus didn't need a bullet. He needed a minute. Just one more minute of patience. Just one more moment of humanity. But they took that from him, so now we take it back for everyone else. The courtroom was packed, every bench filled. Reporters lined the back wall, cameras, notepads, eyes. But Lorna only saw one thing, the defendant's table. 2 men, once in uniform, now in matching Navy suits, hands folded, faces drained of defiance. Patrick Sloan stared straight ahead. Eli Forrester never looked up. The judge entered. A heavy wooden gavel cracked the air. This court is now in session. The trial had lasted 3 weeks. Evidence. Witnesses, footage, tears. Janine had dissected every lie, every cover-up, every silent accomplice. And now it came down to this. The jury filed in. Lorna gripped the edge of her seat, her breath caught. We, the jury, find the defendants guilty on all counts. Gasps, then silence, then a low rising roar from the crowd outside. Sloan and Forrester were sentenced to 22 and 19 years respectively. Not probation, not community service. Real time, real accountability. The courtroom didn't cheer, it didn't need to. Justice doesn't always scream. Sometimes it exhales. After sentencing, the judge allowed a victim impact statement. Lorna stood. She walked slowly to the front, took a breath, and spoke with a voice that cut through every wall. You didn't just kill my brother. You tried to erase him. But Marcus wasn't a threat. He was a human being. He deserved to grow old, to be silly, to live in peace. And now you get to sit in silence. The same silence you left us in. She paused. But I won't be silent. I will keep saying his name, Marcus Bell. The judge nodded slowly and said something no one expected. Thank you, Mrs. Bell. Your courage may have saved lives far beyond this courtroom. Outside, the press swarmed. Microphones, cameras, questions. Lorna stepped up to the podium. She didn't prepare a speech. She didn't need one. She just looked into the lens. For every family that's ever been told their pain is an accident, for every name that didn't make the news, this wasn't just for Marcus. This was for all of us. She turned and walked away. Didn't wait for applause. 6 months later, a mural went up in Eastlake, on the side of the very store where Marcus died. It showed his face, gentle, smiling, radiant, hands open, light pouring from behind. And below in bold white letters, he deserved to be heard. Every year now, on the day he died, the city holds a remembrance walk. They carry candles, they wear shirts with Marcus's name. They tell stories, they honor lives lost. But most of all, they keep going. The Bell Standard expanded nationwide. Hundreds of departments adopted new protocols. And officers now carry 2 cards. One is their badge. The other, a laminated checklist on how to de-escalate mental health crises, with Marcus Bell's name printed at the top. One afternoon, Lorna stood alone in the park where Marcus used to walk. She sat on a bench, new and polished, with a plaque that read, "In loving memory of Marcus Bell, brother, dreamer, human." A little boy ran by chasing a squirrel. His mother called out, "Don't forget your sandwich, baby." Lorna smiled, then looked up at the screen and whispered, "You're not forgotten."